Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello everyone, welcome back to our series of lectures about semantics and pragmatics. This is lecture 7, and in this lecture we're going to talk about componential analysis. So what is componential analysis? It's a type of analysis where we take the total meaning of a word and analyze it into a number of distinct components of meaning. We can call these components all semantic features, so both are acceptable names for these. So we take a word and then we analyze it into components or semantic features. So in this kind of analysis we can give a theoretical framework to handle all the sense relations we talked about in the previous lectures. So we talked about synonymy, antonymy, hyponymy, polysemy, and so on. So this type of analysis can give us a theoretical framework to handle all of these sense relations, and it handles some relations better than others. We will see how that is at the end of this lecture. Just take an example of the type of analysis which is done through doing componential analysis and analyzing words into components. We notice that in English and also in other languages, including Arabic, we have a threefold division of many words that refer to living creatures. So words that refer to living creatures, we have a threefold division, alright? So we have things like man, woman, child. We have bull, cow, calf. We have ram, ewe, lamb. So these are called threefold divisions because they take something and then divide it into three types depending on a certain category. So we have man, woman, and child. I think you can guess. Man is male, woman is female. Both man and woman are adults, but child is not an adult, non-adult. So is the same case with bull, cow, and calf. Bull is male, cow is female, and calf is non-adult. So bull and cow are adults, and calf is non-adult. We can also give categories for the rows themselves. So we just talked about the columns: man, bull, ram. We said all of those are male. Women, cow, ewe, all of those are female, and so on. We can also look at the rows themselves. So man, woman, and child, this whole row, we can give it a label or a component. We say this is human. So human include man, woman, child. While for the case of bull, cow, and calf, we can give the name bovine. Bovine includes the meaning of bull, cow, and calf. We can also give ram, ewe, and lamb ovine. So sheep, okay, we call them ovine. So we can use this to analyze these words and give them components. And seeing those relationships that we looked at in the previous slide, we can give names for these components, like male, we put it between round brackets, female, adult, non-adult, and also human, bovine, and ovine, like we said previously. So if we take one of these words, we say ewe, for example, is ovine, looking at the row, okay. It's also female, looking at the column, and it's also adult if we compare the two. So ovine, female, and adult. Child is human, of course, and non-adult. It can be either male or female, but it is human. It must be human when you say child, and also non-adult. And we can keep on going with these labels that we have abstracted. As I said, we call these labels components. So this kind of analysis is what we call componential analysis. What does it do to us? What does it serve us? It allows us to provide definitions for all these words, like the ones we talked about in the previous slide, in terms of a few components, like male, like female, like human, like bovine, like ovine, and so on. So is it possible to have components in all cases, similar to the previous slide? Well, in many cases there is an appropriate word to label the component, like for example male and female. These are obvious examples where we have labels that are clear and easy to give, but these labels for components are not always available. So let's look at the relationship between the words in these two sets. So we have come and go, and we have bring and take. If we try to look at these two and observe them, we see that there is a relationship between come and go, and this relationship is similar to the relationship between bring and take. So if we look at them, you can say, well, there is something here that is similar. Come, go, bring, and take. Alright, so there is something similar between these two sets. But can we give this type of relationship a component? Can we name it? Do we have a label for these components? So, as I said, we noticed that there is a relationship between the words come and go, which is similar to bring and take. So we say that there are components, but now we need to name them. Can we give them a name? Like we said in the previous example, we have male, female, human, bovine, ovine. We need now names for these components. So before we give them names, we say, well, we can say there are, supposed components, which are X, Y, A, and B. Okay, so we still don't have names for them, so we give them symbols like X, Y, A, B. Similar to Sin and Sad in Arabic. When you do mathematics, you say Sin, Sad. In English, we say X, Y, okay, and we can also use A and B to give them symbols, and then we name the components if we can. So that come, we say, is XA, and go is XB. So come and go both belong to the same row, X, and they have different relationships, which we call A and B. While on the other hand, bring is YA and take is YB. So bring and take are both Y, and in the case of bring and in the case of come, we have the component A. So come and bring are similar in the component A. We still don't know the name of this component yet. And go and take are similar. There is something between them. There is a relationship that we can explain with a component called B. But what is this component? What can we give as a name to these components, X, Y, A, and B? Sadly, it's really difficult to provide an answer in giving a label. In English, for example, we can't really think of a label for the relationship that is expressed by these two sets, because we cannot identify this relationship or the features that are involved in these relationships. They don't really have any simple kind of physical reality. So in the case of male, female, by looking at, for example, a ewe or a cow or a lamb, you can tell, alright? You can tell, well, this is adult, this is non-adult, this is male, this is female, alright? There is physical reality. So when you look at it, you can tell based on your own experience, and there is an objective physical feature that you can tell, well, this is male, this is female. But in the case of the relationship between bring and take and come and go, there is nothing really physically obvious to us. When we see the relationship, we can't really name it something that is obvious in our physical reality. So what we want to get from all of this is that it's not always possible to give labels to certain components, mainly because they do not really have any kind of physical reality which we can name them after, as was the case with male and female. In the case of come and bring and go and take, bring and take, come and go, we don't really have any kind of label that we can give these. So we may perhaps assume that all societies, if we think of all societies and all languages, all societies distinguish between male and female, and this is why it's easier to label these two, because they are used in many societies, if not all of them, and that thus the components male and female are universal. Universal, it means they exist in all languages. These are universal components of language. We will talk in the next lecture about the problem of universals, and it's not really always easy to say if something is a universal component or not, and how many universal semantic features do we have in languages. This will be handled in the next lecture. But in the case of male-female, it might be easy to suppose that they exist in all languages, and so they are universal components. But the come, go, bring, take examples show that not all components are related to simple physical features. We can't really relate them to something simple as saying, well, this is male, this is female. The case of these sets are not as easy as male and female or adult and non-adult. So it becomes less plausible to assume that they are universal. So these might not be universal to all languages based on what we saw, that we can't really give them a label. There is no easy label to give them. So we can assume that these are not universal components that we find in all languages. We'll get back to the topic of universal components, universal semantic features in the next lecture. Let's talk about something else here. One of the characteristics of componential analysis is that we try as much as we can to treat components in terms of binary opposites. If you remember in our lecture about antonymy, we talked about binary antonyms. So we say that things like male and female, these are binary. All right, there is nothing between them. Something is either male or female if we talk about animate objects, or animate or inanimate, and things like that. Or adult and non-adult. So we try to find binary opposites. And these kinds of binary opposites emphasize the relation of complementarity, which we mentioned briefly in the lecture about antonymy. So we can use this notationally. When we write, we can use this using certain symbols. We can use this as a good way to label our components in such a way that we can choose only one label, and then we distinguish the labels, the two binary opposites, by using a plus or a minus, and we will see an example of this in a bit. So in the case, for example, of male and female, we say we choose one of these labels. We choose male, for example, and then we use plus if it is male, minus if it is female, as we see in this next slide. So male and female are written as plus male and minus male, and so on. So plus male is male, all right, minus male is female. Also, we can refer to the lack of sex distinction. It is neither male nor female, as in the case of inanimate objects. We can use the notation plus or minus. So with this symbol, plus or minus, it means it's neither male nor female. However, this only works where there is clear distinction. If you really can tell, this is male, this is female, this is adult, this is non-adult, in this case this will work very well. But however, there are sometimes cases where we can't determine. So there is indeterminacy, as in the case with words like tar and porridge. These, if we try to analyze them based on the components solid and liquid, we get into some cases where we can't determine, is tar solid or is it liquid? Because the state of this matter is between the two. It's a bit solid, a bit liquidy, so we can't really decide. It's not really clear. And also the case with porridge. Is it solid or is it liquid? Can we use plus solid or minus solid to say that it is liquid? So sometimes we get in cases where we cannot really have a clear distinction. Moving on to something else, componential analysis has been used to bring out the logical relationships that are associated with sense relations. As we said, we can use it to analyze sense relations in language. But however, we can, for example, say man, we can mark it as plus male. Pregnant, we can mark it as minus male. So we can rule out things like pregnant man, because pregnant is minus male, man is plus male, so they can't come together. We can't say pregnant man, but because woman is minus male, we can use it with pregnant. Minus male is pregnant, and woman is minus male as well, so we can say pregnant woman, but not pregnant man. So this is how we used it to show the logical relationships between a sense relation like antonymy, male and female, man and woman. However, it doesn't handle all sense relations very well, and in particular the following two sense relations, which include converses and hyponymy. Of course, when we say converses, we're talking about the relation opposites in antonymy. So these two cases of sense relations, we really can't handle them very well using componential analysis, and sometimes it will actually be more ambiguous when we try to use componential analysis. It will not be a really good way to analyze these two cases. Let's look at each of these cases and see why componential analysis doesn't really serve us very well when we try to apply it to these two. So starting with converses in antonymy, it's really difficult to reduce the relationship of relational opposites to components. The reason is that we need to have direction. We said when we talked about relational opposites and converses that, for example, if you have a relationship between parent and child, we cannot really simply state this relationship by giving components to each, because the components will be the same, but they will be in a different direction. So if we say Ali is Ahmed's father and Ahmed is Ali's son. Here we have direction. So both will have the same components but in a different direction, and componential analysis doesn't serve us very well in a case like this. So in componential analysis, cases like these will be analyzed as having the same components but in different directions, and this can be confusing. So they will both have the same components, but because we have a different direction it might confuse us, and so we say the componential analysis doesn't really handle converses very well. Moving on to hyponyms. Why doesn't componential analysis handle hyponyms very well? So componential analysis cannot remove the hierarchical characteristic of hyponymy. We said hyponymy is a relationship where a superordinate and the hyponym is included in the meaning of the superordinate. So this hierarchical way of looking at these terms, we have something on top and we have something under it. It isn't really shown clearly using componential analysis. So when we look at the distinction plus male and minus male for females, this only applies to living animate things, and so we need to add more labels. So it's not really very clear when we use just plus male and minus male. We need to also say that this applies only to animate beings, that we have plus male and minus male. So componential analysis has to state that only if something is animate, may it be male or female, using a formula like the one we have here. So plus animate, we must state this first, and then we say either plus male and minus male. And so we now need to deal with more labels, and this is why it doesn't really handle things like hyponyms very well. So as we said, componential analysis can handle all sense relations, but it handles some of them better than others. So cases like hyponyms and converses, it doesn't really handle them very well. It can be made to handle these relations with some necessary modifications. Like we said, if we add direction in the case of converses, we can make it handle them, but it is doubtful if componential analysis really make these relations clearer. If we add these modifications, if we say, well, there is direction in the case of converses, there is hierarchical way of looking at components when we talk about hyponymy. If we add these modifications, are we making things clearer or more ambiguous and confusing? Well, it's more likely we are making things confusing when we analyze things. So it seems rather to obscure their differences. So when we do this, we obscure the differences between these sense relations. So it doesn't really handle all sense relations very well. Okay, so this is it for today's lecture about componential analysis. Hopefully you found it interesting and useful. As I said, in the next lecture we're going to talk about the problem of universals. Are components and semantic features, do they exist in all languages or not, and the questions we need to look at when we consider this universality of components. So I'll see you inshallah in the next lecture, and thank you for listening.